So I ask you, just how many times in your everyday life do you have to say to yourself, that's not a glider, that should be a mothership? My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. Thank you so much for being with me. Gillian Barber, who played two highlights of mine personally in Stargate SG-1, is joining me for this episode. She played we didn't get their species name really. In the extended lore, we do, but a resident of a planet who are plugged in to a machine that preoccupied their minds while Dwight Schultz was fooling about in the gardens. And then one of my favorites, Ambassador and First Minister Dreylock. I'm privileged to have her here, and if I can press the button, I'll bring her in. Gillian, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, David. Thank you so much for having me.
It's terrific to have you here. You really made an impact. I mean, Dreylock obviously, but you really made an impact on me with your role in the Gamekeeper as well, and I'm really looking forward to getting to both of these conversations. But what's been going on in your world recently? What are you working on?
Oh my goodness.
Narrow it
Well,
down.
lots of things. Uh, well, I teach at a local university, and I've been
Oh,
doing a lot of work there, directing and teaching acting. And every time I can get some time off, I then audition and shoot things like The Last of Us, which was my last role.
oh
So
my gosh! So this
I
upcoming
know.
season?
Yep. I am so blessed to be in that
Wow.
series.
Has it aired yet? I haven't. Your episodes. I've not seen the new season yet. I watch until it ends.
Right. I was in episode one,
Okay.
so and I'm a councilwoman, and the regular people of the town come to talk to us for decisions and stuff like that. So I've got one more episode coming up. They've recut them all, so I don't know what number it is, but there we go. Two
What
episodes.
has it been like being a part of this critically acclaimed mega series? I bet you were pinching yourself when you got it.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the audition, I think, just before Christmas, a year and a half ago, and I thought, oh wow, this would be just amazing, but I'm not going to think about it.
Right.
And 6 weeks later, they called and go, okay, you're in, be there on April, blah, blah, blah. And there I was. And it's just a thrill. It was a thrill to work with that caliber of people, for one. And then not to mention that when you put it on your resume, it's a kind of nice thing to see there. So
Absolutely, for sure. Anything that stands out from that season of production for you
I
personally?
for me personally, I was thrilled to work with the people, obviously the cast, but
Yeah.
I have to say that Bella Ramsey is a real standout. Talk about a person that can just talk to anybody, be polite, come up to you, welcome you to the show, ask you about what you're doing in your life, and then be interested in hearing about it. I mean, they really are a lovely person to work with, and I was thrilled.
The perception oftentimes is that, and I think less now because of social media, that people really get to see under the hood a little bit. But I think the perception is that well, stars are just amazing, and they're all so wonderful. It's like, uh huh, uh huh, and they're long days. Everyone gets to have a bad day. I don't think you need to get to mistreat people, but I do think you get to say, I'm sorry, I can't do X, Y, or Z while we're behind the scenes. I'm just having a really bad one. Can you cut me a little bit of slack? But then you get other people who are just consummate professionals, steady. They almost never have a down day. And it's like, this person was built for this. That's one of the reasons they are so successful. And also can act, as well. That helps.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw them have great fun on set, chasing around, running after things, but also then the moment they could just switch on and be in the role. I think that's so important for actors to have that duality, to be able to understand when the cameras are off and have fun and just be a person. And then when the cameras turn on, as you say, the consummate professional turns up and they're in the moment. And Bella is really one of those people.
How long have you been teaching?
Oh gosh, 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So when you turned about 18, 19.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
I this is a mantra at this point on my show. I stole it from Tim Russ in a video game, but there are fewer jobs more important than teaching. And when I look back on the opportunities that I have had, I worked at PayPal for a little while, and I had a chance to teach one-on-one. It was an assembly line of people. We would get 20 or 30, and then we would go back to the beginning of the assembly line and start over and get another 20 or 30. And it was so richly rewarding to see someone's eyes light up when they get it. It's like you're trying to make a connection for them. You're trying to make it work. You're using metaphor, you're using simile. I'm approaching this every angle but supine. And to watch someone grow and become the next best version of themselves in whatever you're teaching is one of the most ecstatic sensations I have ever had in my life. And I regret it to this day that I no longer have a method of teaching and conveying knowledge of something that I love, or at the very least enjoy.
Absolutely. It's a great passion. And I'm lucky that I teach acting, a subject matter where everyone that comes to the table wants this really badly. They want to learn, they want to get better. So the fact that you've got a room full of 20 people who are as passionate as you are about a subject, and you get to share whatever knowledge that you're bringing to the table on a daily basis, there's nothing like it. I've always said that teaching makes me a better actor because I look at somebody that's having an issue with something and I go, I get that. That's me. I've been there. How can I help this person and therefore remember my own advice in order to help me? It's truly been a labor of love, for sure.
I find it to be an eye opener in terms of seeking greater understanding. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I've never experienced a situation like that, but that person's experienced this situation right now. I need to remind myself when I'm in a similar situation that someone else may be having the same reaction that he or she is having right now that I didn't consider, and adjust my behavior accordingly to accommodate people like that who may never even communicate that to me. I think that if you're receptive to new methods of empathy in terms of how, because you're not just doing it to communicate with something, you're doing it to be with other people and to work with them. And in your particular case, acting is all listening,
Mhm.
reacting. So, which is listening. So,
Yes.
uh, where have you come away in terms of your career with being the most satisfied as an instructor? I'm curious. Would it be mask work? Would it be directing people, in positions on the stage? Where do you find yourself being like, oh yeah, this part of it, I love it all, but this part of it, I really love. I'm curious.
I would have to say directing,
Okay.
because not only are you creating pictures, and I'm a very visual person,
Okay.
creating the pictures on the stage, assisting with choosing the costumes, approving of the set, agreeing to the lights that are going on. It's all part of the visual experience, but it is also like teaching, in that you have this vision and you need to draw people onto your wagon so that you can all be on the same road to create the picture that you want at the end. And it's it's the it's the communication
Yeah.
that you need to spruce up in order to get people on your side, I suppose, for want of a
Okay.
better word, to help them see what you see, to help them put into practice what you put into practice physically, vocally, visually, and that fascinates me. It's so rewarding. I can't describe how rewarding it is.
Directing is a lot of politics
Yep.
because a department head or a cast member, they're looking at you. You've given a note. You want this done. You want this lighting changed in this direction. You want this set piece to look like this. And I'm sure you've been there where you get the look back that they're going, she's crazy.
Mhm.
That's not going to work. What's she thinking? And it's like, okay, if they have a soul and a beating heart, it's like, okay, they're the director. Let's try it and let's watch them fall flat on their face. And then they go and do what you said, and it works. And it's like, huh. Well, okay then. What is it? Can you relate to this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt that every human has an ego,
Yeah.
and they want to do what they want to do, and you have to stand back and find the language. You said this earlier, finding the different language to speak to people, whether it be empathetic or, uh, despotic, whatever,
Or
whatever the
yeah,
way.
straight down there. Yeah, if you're dealing with a New Yorker, they want to hear it straight. There
Right.
are those
Yeah.
people.
Like this is how I want it. So whatever language you decide to choose with different people, and you have to use different language with every single person, their ego has to accept that I will try what you want me to do, and
Hmm.
then I'll do it my way. Um, and sometimes you look at an actor and they do it their way, you go, yep, that's how they should do it. And your ego has
Yeah.
to take the back seat. So it really is striking that balance between what you want and then using who you've got and their talents to create the
Right.
picture that we can create together. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of community attached to it as well.
Yeah, you haven't hired someone on to raise an army of foot soldiers. In this case, they are come equipped with certain talents, some of which you may not even expect in an ancillary field. It's like, well, they're talented over here. Let's try this and see what happens.
Yep.
You got to be flexible as a director. You got to be willing to explore. Otherwise, where's the fun in anything else?
No,
So,
no, it's true. You have to work in collaboration with people, and I love that. In front, behind, and on stage. It has to be there.
what aspect of this industry did you discover first? When in your life was this, and how has it shaped you as a person? In a minute, I'm going to get. I'd like you to tell me about a part that has profoundly impacted you, but I'm curious as to what got you first interested. Did you see a film? Did you see a play? Where was it for you?
I was 4,
Ah,
and I
so this
was
is an
living in
early dream.
and has not changed except once. My mom
Ah,
was in musical theater, and so there came a show that my dad was away, and she couldn't afford a babysitter, so she took me to rehearsal. And there I was sitting in the wings watching her, and I decided to come out and something I thought was a really good idea, and I did it. And the director went, "Who's that?" And my mother was mortified. My daughter. Um, I like it. Keep it in. So that was it. I was in. So
you bought your own ticket.
I did. And
Wow.
honestly, I
Wow.
don't, I only wavered once in terms of the profession that I wanted to be in. I think about 6, I wanted to be a nun.
Okay.
And because of Julie Andrews and The Sound of Music.
That's
But
right.
I changed quickly into wanting to play a nun instead. So there we go. Never changed.
No spending on a hillside for you. No,
I know.
it, it, the when you see an opportunity, sometimes you got to go for it. And sometimes you're 4 years old, and it's like, I want to do this for me. And sometimes there's a director watching it. It's like, yeah, that fits this. Let's bring her in. She's around anyway, right? So, wow. Do you remember the production?
Carousel.
Oh, that's a great
Yeah.
memory. Yeah. Is your mother still
Yeah,
with us?
she's not, sadly.
Okay.
Sadly. But I know she's really proud. My
Yeah.
sister's an opera singer, so she's got a double whammy. She's got 2 performing daughters, and she was thrilled
Wow.
with our choices. But
And
how did it shape me?
yeah.
Uh, how did it shape me? Every every year I would do something, whether it was in school or out of school. And I suppose it gave me a little bit of a cachet, which always helps one's confidence.
Yeah.
But we moved a lot too. We moved to back to England. We moved to Africa. We lived all over the place. So it was a very peripatetic childhood, and I think that too made me more outgoing because I had to be making new friends all the time. But
You have to
yeah,
have an anchor somewhere.
yeah, and funnily mine was theater. I don't know how much of an anger that was, but
Well, you can
but
take that art wherever you go. A part of it is you make friends and it ends. And you make new friends. So having that to hold on to, I think, would be a strength.
yeah, well, it made me a bit of a class clown, which got me into trouble a lot, but that's
Well,
okay.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it never stopped. That desire to explore and learn more about this profession, both sides of the table. So yeah.
Is there a role that you've carried with you since since you performed that sticks with you, or even a piece of a performance that there's no separation between you and this? Is there something that
Mm.
just sticks with you after all this time that you've performed?
Um, the prelude to this conversation is I have always been fascinated with World War II, the Nazi regime, and how it almost changed the world, and
Mm-hmm.
always been fascinated by it. And so when I was cast in Man in the High Castle, which of
What a
course is
show.
that
What a
Philip
show.
novel, yeah,
Yeah.
that talks about what if the war was not won by the Allies, but
Yeah.
was won by Japan and Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And I
Let's go
think,
there.
yeah, and I think being in that show was fulfilling in a very odd sense, even though I had to be on the wrong side, if you want to look at it morally. How people get dragged into beliefs that their society, their religion, their politics
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that you have to believe in. Um, it was eye-opening, I suppose, to the humanity underneath it for me. Not thinking of these people as bad people, these people as good people, but the idea that within a society, whatever the leading politics are, that there are still humans who breathe and live and love. And yeah, so it had a huge impact on me, that series.
Shayla came on last season, and I've always loved her. She crashed my party, a Stargate party I had a few years ago, and I've been a fan ever since. And she was very brave in being able to say that it was an amazing production, and
Mhm.
she had some profoundly conflicting feelings about this as the queen bee of the Eastern United States bloc, as it
Right.
were, and made her face the fact that underneath this regime, there are people who are we're not giving them permission to be this way in our minds, but this is the reality. This is the box that this performance is being set in. And
Mhm.
I always think back to a Tolkien professor who talked about the ring wraiths. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Tolkien, but we are so willing to jump on the fact that that wouldn't be me in that situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could be if the parameters were set right. That could be you. And if you aren't willing to think through the possibility of you going down that road, maybe you're not too comfortable about exploring true malevolence and evil. And maybe you should be more comfortable about looking at the possibilities that could go down. Because under the right set of circumstances, it will be you. It was a scary show to watch, and I
Yeah.
didn't like the ending. But I loved the bravery of Philip K. Dick's concept. It's a wild show, and it makes you ask those banger questions. It's like, what does it mean to be human?
Mhm.
And where do you lose yourself? At what point do you stop being one?
I think the thing that's very important about it is we are all dual. We all have the decisions we make that are moral. We all have the decisions we make that are not moral, depending on where your compass lies. But
Mm-hmm.
it's true. You have to accept the light and the dark
Mm-hmm.
of humanity. And um, I had to live inside that, as I can't imagine Chela doing it for all that length of time. But in the time that I was on the series, it really did awaken me to the fact of you have to live within the rules, if you like, of this particular society. And how are you going to cope? How are you
Mm-hmm.
going to, comport yourself in this world?
Mm-hmm.
So
You have to
yeah,
live in it or you'll die.
exactly.
Or your children will die.
Right.
You ready? I can kill them now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the reality.
Yeah.
And hey, go vote, man.
Uh,
Right.
yeah. Yep.
First awareness of Stargate for you. Were you in Vancouver in the late night? Well, you had to have been because it was season 2.
I
So,
was.
first awareness of Stargate, and tell me about that.
A bit of a vague memory, but I remember this new series coming to town. I'd done X-Files already,
Mm,
all these wonderful sci-fi things that were happening in town. And then this new made for TV from the movie series came up, and always loved MacGyver, big fan. But then when the cast started to happen, and I realized that there were locals being cast in significant roles, that's when I started to get excited about how our local community can help tell this story of different worlds and different um, things that happen out there, different explorations, different, again, good and bad things that happen, and what it can teach us. So I don't, that's what I remember from that first hearing from my agent about this new series coming to town. And I'm thinking, yes, I would love to be on it.
Did you audition in season 1?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
No, I was busy at the time. I had 2 small children, for one,
Ah.
but I was also busy doing other episodics and lots of movies of the week at the time. But couldn't wait for my turn to come up.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I love this episode. It's called The Gamekeeper. Brilliant lead guest star by the name of Dwight Schultz.
Yeah.
This episode is prophetic, in my opinion, on a number of different levels, and I'd like to explore it a little bit with you. Did you know it was written last minute?
I didn't at the time, no, not
Can
at
you
all.
imagine? I mean, seriously, that's not, it doesn't look half-assed in any way in terms of what comes on screen or the ideas in it. Tell me about what you remember from this part.
It was all very mysterious.
And veiled, literally.
Well, literally. Yeah, when you're playing a relatively small part, you're not involved or invited, and I don't mean that in a mean way. You're just not invited into the whole story. So did I see the part where Jack goes back in time, or Michael Shank's character Daniel goes back and sees that happen? No, wasn't that aware of that, but only the sort of arc of being plugged into a machine, being entertained, being told that we had destroyed the planet, therefore there was that guilt placed upon you, which made you listen to the leader.
Yep.
And obey his every word and believe his every word. Again, we're back to this theme of rules in a society.
Yes, themes come forward, don't they? How interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, feeling actually guilty and powerless, I think, were the things that I felt the most when playing the role, until meeting the Stargate team and understanding that there was a different truth out there. But it did feel quite oppressive. Being veiled, which I'd never done before. Makes you think about other people in the world who are veiled all the time. But the oppression was very real during the filming.
Wow. I love the idea of, especially the end is one of my favorite scenes when you're at the conservatory and you're picking the flowers. You are ruining the garden. It's so funny. It's funny. Like, you'll plant more. It's fine. They haven't been out in years.
No, exactly.
Shut up. Oh,
tulips will come back. They will
come back. I love, it's just, Dwight's this outlandish personality, but in my head, I'm picturing this little king on top of his one little hill, and that garden is his world. Forget the whole planet. But it was so funny, and it's just like, dude, you are no longer in charge. We have shown the portals to the residents, and they're gonna go out.
Yeah.
Jeez. There is.
Yeah.
Sorry?
He's very funny. No, I just wanted to, he was very funny because took the, buried the humor early, but you knew it was there from the little twinkles in his eye every once in a while of the potential of what was to come. But no, I was really impressed by his obsession to detail and his, yes, you're right, this little king.
This person would be, though. They're used to running everything, and the environment has been restored, probably, in part thanks to this guy. but you gotta let people go. Sooner or later, you can't just keep them locked up in a video game. We die. And I love the messages of that episode, and I'm frankly terrified as to where we're going as entertainment gets more and more alluring. That it's like, when does the technology become more important than the people? And you know what, people, we really are bad. We really deserve to be locked away and just let nature be nature. That's a scary message that a lot of people, no, don't make more people. There's too many of us. We're not worth that much. There's a lot of elements there that need to be unpacked. I love this show, and I see it very prophetic in terms of what's coming as our technology gets more advanced.
Well, you pair that with 2001: A Space Odyssey and VR becoming AI, becoming controlling us, all of those things
Yeah,
is
that's too.
right, it's terrifying. Um,
Yeah, in this case, there was a human that you could appeal to.
yes, yes, and who knows if the computers would take over the world, who would you appeal to? I don't even know what your powers would be unless you knew where the plug was and you could unplug them from the wall. But
Right. Yeah.
so many levels of it, from we're going from virtual reality through to AI, and also, yeah, the how how despots can push
Hmm.
a population down and make them believe something, and
Hmm.
yeah,
I'm
and then
curious.
humans becoming entertainment. I mean, it's just ugh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm curious with your body of work. You see something happen or an advancement comes out or someone goes and does something, you're like, you as a performer ever go, oh yeah, I've already done this. I've been in this. Do you file those memories away, those projects, in terms of the messages that they carried, or is the work the work?
I have to say, I think the work is the work. I
Okay.
think if you come up against a story that is repeated, if you like, there's always something new to learn, or to explore.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, yes, a lot of these works are educational to a certain extent. You want to show an audience the dangers of, or the potentials of. And you do, that is a responsibility, certainly, of an entertainer, is to understand that the work you do can have that effect. Um, but no, the work is still very personal. The work is still very researched and explored for its own merit every single time.
Hmm. Yeah, you have to have fun with it.
Oh,
If you're there, yes, it's going to be a slog sometimes. Yeah, you have to hit your marks. Yes, you have to say all those words in that order. But you got to have some play as well. And I think that's what Richard Dean did well. You
oh,
shared many a scene with him, so I'm sure you can speak to that.
well, I have to say that that group of people was very entertaining. The beauty of it was, is with a cast that's worked together for so long, is they know what makes each other laugh.
Yep.
They can do it when they're off camera, and you're on camera. You're going, oh God, okay, I have to keep my
You're being
I have to
hazed.
straight here. Yes. And they were very good at that. Honestly, after 7 seasons, they were experts at, um, when they're on camera, being perfect, and when they're off camera, they just want to have fun. But in a lot of ways, once you understood that, once you'd been on set once, and you went, okay, I get that, I get your measure. You could play the game. You could play the
Yeah.
game too. So I don't know. I had a great time with all those crazy characters.
Christopher Judge.
Judge.
I can count on one hand the number of actors that I can call upon, and if I needed something in any moment, I could get them. Two of which are Cylons, but Christopher Judge is one of the others, and he admitted to me at one point. I said, you're burning hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars per minute on this show. You're going to ruin a take. How much money has been lost, and just to make you laugh and make them laugh. And Chris is like, yep, too bad, because you want them to want to come back, and you want them to have a positive experience. And at the end of the day, we are getting our days.
Oh yeah, they could not do that if that was at risk.
Yeah.
No, and they wouldn't have risked that anyway. They knew what was in the can. They knew they could do another take and it would be perfect. But the itch to entertain was always there for all of them.
Wow.
And not just them, the directors too. I mean, Martin and Peter, just as much fun as everybody else. So yeah, no, it was very, very entertaining and many laughs induced. And yeah.
We have been exposed to a culture called the Kelownan people.
Mhm.
They share a planet with, I believe, the Turanians and the Andari Federation, if I'm remembering correctly.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Of
And
course you
the
do.
seasoned, well, not necessarily. And you appear in the second half of, maybe not the second half, but you appear in season 6 as Ambassador Dreylock,
Mhm.
who it was season 6, right? Was your first, or was it season 7? I believe you
So season
appear in
6,
season 6, yes,
and
along with
then
Dean
and then a couple in
Stockwell.
season 7. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the part that I miss. And Jonas Quinn is a renegade and a
Mhm.
traitor, and you have to play this woman who is going down the middle of the road because, yes, these people have stolen something from us with his assistance. Don't know if he's complicit or not.
Mhm.
We've also got enemies at our back doorstep, and we need their help. So we're going to play this kind of middle of the road according to what the First Minister wants. Tell me
Mhm.
about getting and portraying Ambassador Dreylock.
Well, my first point of business was really to discover what an ambassador is, because I think you've just summed up what that job entails. Is you can't lose your cool, you cannot have well, show your strong opinions on either side of the line, and you have to back your first minister and be wise at the same time. So I spent a lot of time looking at ambassadors and thinking about how their ambition drove them to that job,
Mm,
how they acceded to that role. Um, and I felt quite confident actually that, my patrician looks, my voice, there are things that I could use of my own self to portray a wise council person.
you can accentuate your softness.
Yes, yes. And you notice that what I noticed going back and watching them again was I did use that voice, that sort of softer voice that I can use, and so I chose that particularly because I did not want to antagonize anybody I was speaking to. So yeah, it was fascinating to use what I have, but focus it in on what my job entailed.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
Any highlights from working with Dean Stockwell, Corin Nemec? Um, Anything that stands out from that early episode?
Again, Dean Stockwell has been around,
Yeah,
had been around for a long time. So
yeah.
there was just watching um his the growth, the fallout, the rollout of what he was doing.
Yeah.
Fascinating at the beginning because you were not to expect anything that happened in the story later. Um, his true beliefs and the resistance in everything that he believed in that episode. And Karin, you know, serious young actor, really, again, fun to watch because of his focus. Um, but no, I think I was so thrilled at that point to have a role that I hoped would reoccur, that would uh, allowed me to be a wise woman. I think you don't often get to play those kinds of roles where you, as a woman, is in that sort of a position, plus to be able to embody your wisdom.
Did you
Uh,
any
yeah.
of the weight on her shoulders transfer to you? Did you feel that, in inhabiting the performance of what was at stake? Or is it, this is a role and I'm going to take it on and, I'm going to do my research and I'm going to play it?
Again, I mean, yes to both questions. I think one of the things that I do is I will, as I've already mentioned, I go to my own body, to my own voice. What can I do to embody this character? And I
Mhm.
think you'll notice that I was ramrod straight
Mhm.
throughout the portrayal, and I felt that it would give me command.
Mhm.
My body would give me command, but my voice would be soft. So I really like to obviously use the personal attributes that I have. Um, but was there weight? Of course. I think
Mhm.
the weight of having this so-called nuclear power at my fingertips, not at my fingertips, but within my
Certainly his
world.
ear.
Yes. So that was I think that was the weight that I carried, was this idea of nuclear power and what it could do to destroy my world and threaten other worlds.
This is always a repeating, narrative in our society that these particular episodes really connect to that. But also, in terms of talking about the role and finding play in it, the script only affords you so much elasticity.
Mhm.
So you're bound largely by the document. But at the same time, you get directors like DeLuise and Wood, and it's like, what are they going to throw at us that, we didn't expect coming off this page? And here it is. They're delivering it, and Rick as well. But
Yeah.
was I frequently hear the word recurring bandied about on
Mhm.
this show, or people are like, "Oh, I was told it may be recurring," and part of them is like, "Oh, it may be recurring," but in your case, it was. What was that
But
like?
it's the luck of the draw, though, because
Yeah.
they can't say any more than
Yeah.
when they contract you, they'll say, well, it may be recurring, because
Yep.
they don't want to, put it in stone that you're going to be in more than one episode. That would be financially killer. But when I heard that I was coming back in season 7, I I was so excited. I thought, okay, what's my storyline? What do I get to do? Um, it's too bad in was it Homecoming or was it
It's Homecoming.
Fallout? I don't remember which one it was, but
Oh.
it we I had well, there was this battle scene, and it was too bad because I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. So
Oh, you're two
I
belts higher than
thought,
me in Taekwondo.
ah,
Red belt, black
I
tip.
oh great, great. It's a again very focusing sport.
Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am.
But yes, exactly.
That's right.
But I got a chance to, I think it was Martin. So I said to him, listen, I'm a black belt. If you want me to do anything, any stunts, any fights, please let me at it. So they did a huge shot where the camera was going round and round, and I got to take out a few bad guys, and um, it was a thrill because it was the first time I'd ever been able to use that skill, and it didn't end up in the end.
Ah, yeah. There's a
No,
shootout with
well,
the Jaffa in
yeah,
Fallen near the end. So
right.
Dreylock kicks ass.
I did, but you didn't get to see it. But that's okay. The fact that on a set
Yeah,
with time constraints, you can say to a director, "Listen, I can do this.
yeah.
Use me." And he did. He let me have at her. So I was really thrilled by that.
You never know what you're gonna get on the day.
I know.
Sometimes things just pop up, and you can't get swept away with, God, will it be in the edit?
No,
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 that's not the, yeah, but it's
no,
so
that's
easy to
not.
do that.
Yeah, no, no. I don't tend to think that way. I just think, oh, come on, please, please, coach, put me in.
Right, exactly. Let's do it
Basically
on
what
the
I'm at.
day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow. I love shadow play for a number of different reasons, including Dean's performance. Everybody is great. But really, in hindsight, I think that it would have been more. I'm just curious, as a fellow viewer of the episode, I think that it would have been more intense if the bombs had already started falling.
Yeah.
And the Kelownans are being wiped out. These are desperate times. We need something with a greater punch. Help us. See that person out there? They're about to die. What do you do? There was but in this episode, the version that they chose to go with was a little bit more. We can spend more time at the conference table just working through this, because really, I guess at its core, it's not what's happening to the Langara, the Kelownans, later Langara, the Kelownans specifically, as much as what's happening to Jonas, and that's what's facilitating the story. He's being forced to confront the fact that he's returned to a planet he's been exiled from, and
Mhm.
so it's probably best for the story that that was the way that they were going.
Yeah, I mean, the conference table stuff was important, the sort of politics of the event.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But you're right, the action and the humanity of his story, I've that's what I've felt about Stargate from the beginning is they were always very good about or very clever in making each story have that line, that storyline that could twang your heartstrings, as
Right.
well as the political environment in which you were in. I think that's what was its strength, personally.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I I loved Fallout because we finally get to return to the planet and see what has become of our friend. And the first minister is now you.
Yeah,
And it wasn't a stretch. It made organic sense that a person, I mean, gosh, her boss was killed.
yeah,
The person who saw them through their darkest hour would be considered for that position. Did it feel like a natural growth to you? And did you find any room in your back to have a little bit more poise than you did before?
absolutely. With a great help from the costume department. Oh,
Oh, the
man,
clothes.
those people were so good.
Oh man,
So
Christina
good.
McQuarrie, I think.
Yes. Having worked with her quite a few times before in theater as well.
Oh,
But having all of those things built for you and measured within an inch of its life, it just filled me with that control, with that authority.
mhm.
Um, just put the final touches on it. But yeah, I mean, I think that Ambassador was always a little bit ambitious, just a
Okay.
little bit. But of course, taking over that role where the previous guy was murdered,
Yeah.
you have to understand that you're taking on this role and that could be you. So,
I guess I
yeah,
will.
I guess I will, but I'll keep my back even straighter just in case someone's going to shoot at me. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Gosh,
which they did. But
that's true. I
yeah,
didn't think of it that way. Where I mean, yeah, underneath the surface, uh, um, ambassadors do have often have political aspirations as well. Ambassador is often just a position of goodwill, facilitating communication, and that makes a lot of sense. I never thought of. I didn't necessarily think of her as a Mary Poppins, but I didn't consider her having ulterior motives of power. Ulterior, the wrong word? Motives of power that were facilitated by the death of her boss. That she's like, you know what? Here's the opportunity, and I might want that anyway. I never thought of it that way, but it makes sense that
well,
you would.
yeah, I mean, I didn't get too much chance to show it, but
Yeah,
every once in a while in the reaction shots, I would be thinking, I don't like this decision. I would have done it this way. And I without even knowing that I was going to be promoted, I just chose to make her very slightly ambitious about decision making and what I would have done in that stead. So
makes a lot of
that was
sense.
yeah, it was my little window of, there you go. Please
Any
keep me on.
other performers we should call out? Any other specific memories from your time on that franchise? Anyone behind the scenes?
Well,
Before we
actually,
wrap that up.
two performers. I mean, Don S. Davies and I got, friendly. I just admired him so much. He was always a gentleman, and not that people aren't gentlemen on set, but in the melee of all the humor and everything else, Don was always there, sort of holding the fort together with his kind of Southern style. And I loved him. I thought he was an amazing person.
Miss him.
Yes, very much so. I was very saddened to hear about what happened. Um, and then the other person I admired wholeheartedly and would love to work with again is Amanda Tapping. Just,
Director, executive producer Amanda Tapping.
I know,
Yeah.
held it together in that world of men, and then now, and look, this is she really advanced to where she should be.
You've
Just
not been directed by her yet?
no, not yet.
Well, it's just a matter of when. She's taking over the
Yes,
friggin' Earth.
I know. Can't wait.
Jeez. Dogs for everyone.
Yes, please.
No, Amanda, what an extraordinary human being. And,
Mhm.
fortune could not have favored someone more deserving of the accolades she has received, and the crucible she has endured. Not to say that it was hell for her, but there are certain situations where it's like, yeah, because I'm me, I've got to deal with this, and she's just done it with grace and
Yeah,
poise. So Amanda's a wonderful human being.
that's my favorite word, grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very gracious.
Stargate provided a huge opportunity for hundreds and hundreds of performers, and even more hundreds of behind the scenes personnel for 17 seasons of television. I remember being there in Vancouver in 2003 for the first time, and then going back last year. It's a completely different town. And Stargate helped to build that film and television community into what it became.
Yes.
It's a tremendous feather in their cap. And I don't even recognize the city anymore. It's huge. So it's what a wonderful job they did. And I miss it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think so many people cut their teeth both on and off screen in that show and have gone on to fulfill this sort of Hollywood North that's been built out of it.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
are you going to tackle next? What's on your plate? What would you like to do that you haven't been given a shot at yet? You're moving into a part of your life where it's like, this is uh, there's only so many years. How do I want to allocate them? What is it that you want to do, either on stage or are you perfectly content with teaching and going out for roles? You said 3 earlier today. My gosh,
Yes.
you
Yes.
aren't slowing down.
No, why should I? No. I think teaching has been wonderful, beautiful, all of the above. But you're right. I think I'm entering a new phase of my life, and I think what I would want to do is to go back and do more acting because there's always something to learn. But I'm also really interested in cutting my teeth on doing some writing. I've had a story sort of percolating around in my head, and I want to explore it. I'm going to take a course this summer in making an ultra low budget film as a director. So I'm going to do that. So I would like to direct on film more. I've done a couple, but I'd like
Mhm.
to do more. I want to write. I want to write stuff for myself. And I still want to act. Um, so that's my new phase. I'm doing some more directing in the fall, a couple of stage plays, but actually three. Eek. Okay. But I
Just
really
3? Is that
only
all?
three, only three. And one of them I'm going to write. I want to write the
Uh-huh.
first one. I want to write it based on some mythology that I've recently found. So,
Which
um,
mythology, if I may ask?
um, I don't want to give too much
Okay.
away.
Okay.
I'm going to say Grecian
Okay.
mythology.
Okay.
There you go.
That's broad.
Uh, yeah. Well, I'm going to create it for a group of 18 performers. So I have to
Wow.
mold it to the people themselves, the gender makeup of the room, all those kinds of things. So
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
lot of cards on the wall with the red string and the time between to make that all come to 18 people. That's not an easy thing to keep track of. If
yeah,
if it's a true ensemble. Very cool.
yeah.
Will you please keep me in the loop as that moves forward?
Of course, no, not at all. I'd love to.
Absolutely. Tom Macbeth
Oh,
is a friend, and I got to see him live a couple of months ago in Vancouver in A Doll's House Part 2.
right,
And it
right.
was extraordinary. And it hadn't been since before COVID that I had sat down into a space as intimate as that one was
Hmm.
and got to just bask in a live performance. And he's 15 feet from me. And I mean, at one point, it's just pouring down his face, his emotion. And it's like, people don't get enough of this now. And I think that Matthew Bennett made the comment, last week on the show, as we go more. digital, the yearning for the physical will become more relevant because we know, at least for now, we know that when it's in front of us, it's real. And I really do think that theater is going to, I hope that we're entering a new renaissance with theater. There's some cool stuff out there, and there are some amazing performers, and it's a beautiful space to be in.
The Pal Theater is stunning. I've directed there too, and it's there's nowhere to hide, and I love that.
Right. There's nowhere to hide. It's all
No.
out, warts and all. So you better get it right,
Right,
or at
exactly.
least don't lie.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, Tom's wonderful. His wife, Karen Connell, was my best friend.
Oh, I
And
love Karen. I want her on the show this season. Yeah.
oh, please. Yeah, no, she would be astounding.
Oh, her gorilla stories alone.
Yeah. Yep. Orangutans are her life.
That's it, exactly. The orangutans, that's it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Gillian, this has been a treat to have you on. I'm thrilled to have had this opportunity to get to know you a little bit, and to hear where things are coming ahead for you. And I'm so thankful to the larger Stargate family of satellite actors who have been willing to come on this show after 20 some odd years, in some cases more, of being away, and still share stories of the things that they remember from the production, because it's still, elements of it still stand out to them because the show was that good. And it meant that much to the community up there and to the group of people who worked in it.
Absolutely. It was early days for the film industry up here, and it was a thrill to learn and grow and laugh
Yeah.
with a bunch of amazing people.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to be with me.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to wrap up the show on this end, but you be well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
That is Gillian Barber, resident in Stargate SG-1's The Gamekeeper, and Ambassador, nay, First Minister, Dreylock. Appreciate you tuning in. We've got a number of shows coming up the next couple of weeks here that are going to be heading your way, if I can get my document to work right here. Gillian, are you still with me?
I am. Sorry, should I be leaving the...
No.
No?
I made
Okay.
a huge faux pas.
What?
I skipped the fan questions.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a little bit more time?
Yeah, I'm happy to. This has been so much fun.
I apologize, Gillian. I apologize, Phantom. This is what happens when host gets carried away with himself. God. Sorry, guys. My moderators are like, dude's not with it today. Matt T. Gillian, how would you compare the Supernatural set to the Stargate set?
Oh, that's interesting question.
Yes. Both have their comedians.
Yeah, they're quite similar. I think the two lovely gents on Supernatural really set the tone of the set. Again, polite.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I can't use that word strongly enough. Welcoming, yeah, truly. Chairs pulled out, the whole schmear. I mean, I was treated like a queen. And that is the similarity between them, where those in command, if you like, are setting the precedent for how people should be treated. So that's the biggest thing for me. I also got to use my Taekwondo on Supernatural too. I was head of the British intelligence, yeah.
Fighting stance, Junbi.
Oh yeah, I would see a great similarity.
Yeah.
You're on sets most of the time rather than being out in the world, and I find that very comforting to be on a stage. Oh wow, it's a question out of the past. No, I can't really say anything differently in that run on one side with gentlemanly, polite poise, and on the other side with humor but welcoming.
Yeah, for sure. When you're doing 15 seasons in one and 17 seasons in another, something's working. For
Absolutely.
Sure. Two more for you. Jacob wants to know any memories from Jumanji that you can share.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Makes me happy and sad at the same time.
I know. I
Um,
loved it.
yeah. Robin Williams, I met him first in a makeup chair. So he came
Okay.
in on the day that he was shooting when he was in the game.
Okay.
So he was very rough and ready that day.
It's wild
God
man.
love him, extremely hirsute. And I didn't know where to look because he had to sit in the chair sort of bare chested um, I, but he was hysterical. He kept on shooting sort of funny looks at me, and then he went, "You never sat next to a bear before?" And I went, "No, guys, fine, fine, sorry."
He's a hairy
But
man.
he was a very hairy man.
Anyway, and he's even more hairy now.
But honestly, the best day was on the day where I was being carried off. The giant mosquito bites me in the car.
Oh, that's right.
We were doing that scene like 20 times, and on the 19th time, the car died.
Oh,
So Robin Williams gets under the hood of the car, pulls out the spark plugs, and he had this two spark plugs are having this conversation, and we all just
oh my
peeing
God.
ourselves laughing because it was so fun. Again, what a way to break the tension of a moment where this huge budget film has to halt because of a stupid car. Anyway, it was great.
But you get the right person under the hood who will not fix it, but give everyone else a break with some
Exactly.
levity. It's like, well, let's bring out the two people who have caused this moment, folks. Spark A and Spark B. How you do? Give them a round of applause, everybody.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's funny.
Went like that. That's how it went.
Oh, Lockwatcher, final question. Beyond Stargate, you've also done some voice talent for some animated features. Um,
Right.
what do you like about that process? It's far more intimate.
It is, but I tell you, it's really, really exhausting because
Ah,
even though there's a mic there and your lines are right in front of you, if you don't put what they call effort, that's an actual terminology for when you're recording, if you're not going full bore and your body's moving and everything's going like this, you come away from those sessions absolutely exhausted. Not
ah.
just vocally, but your whole body has to get into it, or else it doesn't really translate across the microphone.
Wow. Okay. So you can't.
So
So you can't sit there quietly. Otherwise, you'll come off as phoning it in.
phoning, boring, all of those things. It just doesn't work. So it's incredibly enervating just to yeah, just to be on and your voice has to kind of change and do all sorts of things and anyway, I love it for that complexity that it adds to the performance as well.
Wow. That
Yep.
is wild.
Yeah.
Now I'm done.
Okay.
So, Peace Writer, Gabby, we already asked those questions, guys. I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you for sticking around for a few more minutes with me. And
My
apologies to my
pleasure.
audience. That's the first time I've ever done that.
Oh,
Lucky 321 or whatever it is. Thank you, Jillian. I appreciate you.
okay, thank you.
I'm going
I
this time. You're
I
welcome to
will
stick
leave now.
around, but yeah, it's thank you. You take care.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you, David.
Oh, today's not my
Bye.
day. All right. Let's try this one more time. Gillian Barber, everyone, Ambassador Dreylock, First Minister Dreylock in Stargate SG-1. We've got a number of episodes coming up for you, including a Monday one that's hanging on, believe it or not, if I can push the right button here. And it's not going to work until I do this for some reason. All right, there we go. We've got Shane Meyer coming up on Monday, May the 5th. That is tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time. I think this may be our first Monday show, but Shane requested this, and so we're going to go all in and take care of that for him. Brenda James is coming May the 10th. She played Katie Brown in Stargate Atlantis, and William DeVry is joining us starting our Sunday, May 11th episode with Aldwin and Craig Veroni, Peter Grodin in Atlantis on May the 11th as well. And you can go to dialthegate.com to read the rest. My profound thanks to my moderating team. Boy, I almost hung you guys out to dry today. They would have been pissed. We wrote down all these questions and you didn't ask them. You suck. All right. My moderators, Anthony, Jeremy, Kevin, Lockwatcher, Marcia, and Raj, you guys are very patient. My producers, Anthony Rowling, Kevin Weaver, Linda Gategaber-Fury, I appreciate all of you guys. Big thanks to Frederick Marcoux at Concepts Web, who keeps dialthegate.com up and running. Season 5 has shaped out to be a banger. We really went in there, roared in like a lion. Gonna get my metaphors right. Not going to be as many shows moving forward week to week. We'll see, because I do, want to save some of my prospects for later in the season in terms of new guests. But we've really been pounding it hard in terms of new guests for the first half of this season, and I appreciate everyone who has come on. There was a note here for me, I believe. Need to update website for it. Oh, so this is behind the scenes stuff. So no one didn't ask a question. That's okay. I'm here all week. My name is David Reed for Dial the Gate. I appreciate y'all tuning in, and I will see you on the other side.